Is Bitcoin on a sustainable trajectory to 100K? That's the simple question on everybody's mind. Good morning, guys, or good day, whatever time of day it is in your time zone. I'm Keith Allen, happy to be with you again. Fantastic week. Hope you've been printing some green P&L and hope that you are positioned as you'd like to be as we head into what I believe is a solidly confirmed bull market here. And I think the best is yet to come. We obviously have been on just an incredible tear here since election day. Bitcoin has been running like mad. Alts have been running like mad. The problem and the concern, of course, is when things go up too fast, too far, too fast, they often have a partial or a full retracement, which nobody wants to see. And so, well, maybe there's some bears that want to see that. But if you're a bear, it's time to go into hibernation, I'm afraid. So let's take a look at we're going to look at a variety of data today, right? As usual, we're going to look at fire charts and we're going to look at the liquidity in the order book. And we're going to look at, really where the short-term trend is, which marks the trajectory that we've been on, and what Bitcoin has to do to stay on this insane rocket ride towards 100K. Of course, we'll also climb into the downside of that. If Bitcoin can't maintain this momentum, what could be our potential support targets from here? Without further ado, we're going to climb in. Before we do so, though, do me a favor, if you haven't done so yet, smash some buttons, hit the like, hit the share, and by all means, hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any of the future live streams. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, live comments are open. Would love to have you join me here in the stream. If you've got questions, if you've got insight you want to share, love to hear it. Love engaging with you guys. And as always, I do appreciate the support that you show me here. So let's do this. Let's climb in first to fire charts and just take a look at this. I mean, it's just almost a straight line. And we're finally, these past couple of days, getting a little bit of a pullback that will help build a structure, foundation for some support here if things start to break down. So as you can see, absolutely rapid rise here. This was election day, and boom, off to the races. Paused for a hot minute, and then literally straight lined up to our all-time high now is at like what, 93.5K, something like that. And eyes obviously are on this 100K target, which is psychological, not a technical target at this point. This is a psychological target, 100%. At one point, this was up to about 183 million or so of ask liquidity up there. It's now down to 100 million. So a big chunk of it has been pulled or potentially moved down here. As we see, we have another 95 million at the 95 million mark. So that all kind of makes sense, right? If we drill in a little bit, we can see what's happening here in shorter time frames, and you can see a little bit of consolidation here happening, which is good. It's really important that we get this. And we have some bid support, about 45 million of bid support here in this 86K range, and our immediate resistance up here, like I said, at 95, and then here's 100 million. We'll drill into this more granularly in a little bit. We did see a bit of a pullback yesterday, and we had two things that were really catalysts for that. One was in the morning, we had some economic data that came out that was not super exciting. And the reason is the market wants to know if the Fed is going to cut rates in December. And so we had this report that came out yesterday, had some, a couple of misses, wasn't horrible because there were some mixed things in terms of like jobless claims were lower than forecasted, but the big numbers, the PPI were an issue, right? So we want to see cooling here, right? Whatever the case here, this one right here, especially PPI ex food and energy year over year, that was up 0.1% from where it was forecasted. So not horrible, but not the trend that the market or the Fed want to see. And then later in the day, Fed Chair Powell spoke, and he was a bit hawkish, saying that listen, it's going to be a bumpy ride down to 2%. So they don't have they don't necessarily have to keep cutting at the pace that they started. Of course, they always leave the door open, and the market sentiment on whether or not we will see a December cut has changed drastically. Yesterday, before the economic data came out, it was up to about 82%. Then it dropped down a bit. And after Fed Chair Powell's comments, it's now down to 58%. This is, of course, highly, highly speculative, but something to consider in terms of the euphoria that has helped drive the rally that we've seen so far. Another thing to consider here is ETFs. Obviously, the ETFs have been massive, massive drivers of volume here. This demand has certainly helped push price up here over the past week or so. But guess what? Yesterday, some of that demand dried up. In fact, there was indeed some profit taking by three of the ETF entities. Of course, BlackRock's still buying. All right. So actually, one, two, three, four of them sold. Grayscale has two different products here. So, and something to consider moving into the weekend is there is no ETF flow over the weekend, right? This is a TradFi business hours thing, so we won't see any ETF flow over the weekend, and that could also create opportunity for a bit of a pullback. So now let's go ahead and look at the candle chart where we have some very simple trend lines that we can talk about. So I had mentioned that yesterday the pullback began on the economic data, which came out at 8:30 a.m. And you can see, boom, we had a candle that dropped us 2.25%, little bit of recovery. And then in the afternoon, Fed Chair Powell spoke in this, at the 4 o'clock hour, and we went down even further. But you see this trend line here. Let me zoom out just a little bit here. This is a 4-hour trend. And as you can see, this is the rapid rise. And we tested this. We've now tested this multiple times, right? Got off to the start here. We tested it on Saturday. We tested it yesterday 4 times, pretty much all day long. And now, obviously, price has recovered from that. However, whether we recover today and hold this remains to be seen, right? So this is putting our local support level, in my opinion, right around this 87K number. You could look lower if you want. You could say 86.7, between 86.7 and 87.250 would be kind of our current local support level. And if price can maintain this trajectory, meaning above the trend line, so not just maintaining 87K, but maintain this trend, and this has been a very aggressive and rapid trend. But if price can maintain this trend, look what happens here, right? Today is Friday, November 15th. If we continue up on this trend, and we're wondering when we get to that 100K point, right? Well, 100K is right here. And look what day that is. That's November 20th. So that's that's even before, that's well before Thanksgiving. That's 5 days away. So I'm not saying that Bitcoin is going to do that. I'm saying that this is what Bitcoin must do if we're going to hit that target by Thanksgiving, or actually by November 20th. So what happens if there's a breakdown? What happens if, say the weekend, the ETF flow cools off, demand cools off, and price breaks through? Then we have to look for our next support levels. And the next one you're going to look at is where there's been any consolidation whatsoever, right? 76K. We touched that level. We had a little bit of a, this is almost like a bull flaggy right here that took us to this breakout. But again, this is a very short time frame. So that's where I would look for my next level of support. And then beyond that, really, we have brief consolidation down here in the 73s, and then we go back to, the trend line of where, the RS flip zone, which was the 2021 top, and we can illustrate that a little bit better here on another chart that we've been looking at for quite some time. That we have had a great deal of consolidation in this range between the 2021 mid-cycle top at 65K and the 2021 top at 69K, and we spent months and months and months since March trying to break that 69K in a sustainable way, and it was just rejection after rejection after rejection. So this RS flip right here is huge, and in my opinion, as long as we stay, as long as this RS flip holds, we're in good shape. Bitcoin will eventually get there. So I'm not in a huge rush, but as you can see, we now have the fourth and final, or the last golden cross here with the 100-day moving average crossing above the 200-day. So this is unwinding. This shows the strength of this trajectory. So, in terms of support, we talked about that, this up here at 87 holding. If this doesn't hold, we look to where there's confluence anywhere, right? There's a little bit at 80K. There's certainly more in this 75, 76K level, and 75 being psychological, and the 76 being more technical, and then below that we have another line of confluence just on a from a TA perspective around this 72.6, 73K level. And if we look at where liquidity is in the order book, how that may align with this, maybe that gives us some clues of where the potential landing zones are. You can see you have a bit of liquidity down. Let me see if I can push this up. I got to refresh. Gots to refresh. Lots of activity on the network these days. So let's push the contrast here, and we can highlight where the strongest levels of resistance and support are just by filtering out the lows and highs a bit. And here we can see we've got our strongest level of support here is indeed at this 86.5K level, and below that a little bit here above 80, and then things start getting pretty thin. 18 million down at that 74K level. So there's not really at the moment any sentiment to go down to 70K, and that's good. Take it into the daily, and you can see. So these, liquidity dampens volatility. So when you see these dark areas, that means price can move through that rather quickly, rather easily. There's just not a lot of friction there to slow things down. We see a bit of stair stepping here. Bids move from here to here, and from here to here. And so that may help keep things elevated, but this is really where the lion's share of bid liquidity is resting on the order book right now. About 17.5 million at 85K, another 13 million at 86K, insulated by a bit more above that. So that's really what we're watching. We're watching this trend line really, really closely to see if Bitcoin can indeed maintain this trajectory. You just have to know that things could break down here because we don't have the ETF demand over the weekend that we've had through the course of the week. That faucet's going to turn off for a couple of days, and then Monday we could lose this and we could come right back into this trend line. But just know that this trend line, as it sits, is the trajectory. It's the pathway to $100,000 Bitcoin. And if we can stay in this range, not in this range rather, but if we can stay in this trend, this short-term trend, mind you, then by November 20th, we got a real shot, right? It could happen right there. Now, what's going to happen if and when we do hit that 100K mark? I expect that's going to trigger some algos. People are going to go nuts. There's going to be a combination of profit taking. There's going to be a combination of shorts, and there's going to be a combination of breakout traders going long, and they're all going to get flushed probably relatively soon. I would expect maybe we get an overshoot that squeezes shorts, and then a correction that flushes the longs, and then Bitcoin can work its way back up. That's speculative, of course. We'll have to see how things develop from here. But I'm going to leave you with a parting shot of the order book here in the shorter term, in the lower time frame, so you can see what we're dealing with in the immediate range. I don't see any real guardrails up, um, especially considering the fact that everything is breakable at this point when the sentiment is there to do so. Heavy concentration of 57 million in ask liquidity at 95. Um, that is really insulating us from going after that 100K level at the moment, but takes nothing, right? A big bid could show up here uh, without notice at any moment and push things back up. Keep in mind, of course, what happens on the weekends is typically associated with weekend whale game volatility. So might be a good time to do some research into checking out alts, and one that I've been holding on to for a long time. I don't dabble in shitcoins a whole lot, but one that I think has some, in my opinion, has some fundamental strength is Litecoin. It has been a sleeping giant, in my opinion. I've been underwater in it for a long time, and I'm finally recovering that here today, really. So this could certainly pull back, but I think that this one, and you can see here, is just starting to unwind the moving averages here. Golden cross between the 21 day and the 200-day moving average. That's a really important one, in my opinion. And, the rest are going to drag up to follow. So hopefully this trend continues and that thing will continue to climb. We can look at what the potential, just for this thing, just for Litecoin to get back to all-time high territory, right? We're a long way away. I mean, and what I like about this is, certainly the fundamental strength. And you can go into the Litecoin story. There's plenty of stuff online to track that. But look at how much room we have to go just to get to the golden pocket, to break out, and then potentially get back to the all-time high. Just from here, we have a 50% move to get to the 0.5 fib, a 100% move to get to the 618, and a breakout from there that could take us back to all-time high territory. That's nearly a 400% move. That's why I like that, because the from here, here's your risk. Am I willing to risk a 15% drop to make 400%? Yep. Simple as that. If there's anything else you guys want to look at real quick before I wrap it for the day, by all means, chime in. Alex, good to have you with me. I'm with you in the LTC battle. At this point, I've ridden through some nasty drawdown. I held on to it because my first. I've got a couple of entries that I used to build my position. The first one hit its first TP, and then the retracement went down, and I bought more. Substantially lower than my first entry. Dollar cost my average way into that position, as I tend to do with all my positions, and we're finally getting made right again. But I like the fundamental strength of this based on the length of time that Litecoin has been around, based on their uptime. They've never had no down days, no downtime on that network, and processing just billions of transactions since inception. And they're expanding on payment platforms. So I think that's a good thing. I think people will be more willing to spend Litecoin than they are willing to spend their Bitcoin at this stage. And so I'm happy to see this through, and just let this ride. See where we go from here. Obviously, if we have breakdowns, then I'll reevaluate that. Solana is another one that has been moving. ETH still above. Love-hate relationship with ETH, right? It's like you want it to succeed, but there's so much bad news on this thing. There's so many things that are fundamentally wrong with ETH, and I'm not going to get into those. But the fact that it's still, the smart the smart contract coin. It's still number two in market cap. There's still a lot of interest in ETH. And the fact that ETH is, has had this breakout move as well, I think that it will appreciate from here. I just don't think that ETH is at this stage the instrument that we all hoped it would be. And so that's why I'm pretty skeptical on ETH and don't hold a whole lot of ETH. Let's look at Doge here. Doge, I don't like memes. I really don't. There's no denying that they make money. But I will tell you that the issue that has me interested right now is this whole Elon Musk story. He's now getting a position in the government and he's named the department Doge. So maybe, we've always speculated whether he would do something with Doge, whether it was on the X platform or something else. The fact that it is holding above, it had just a rapid rise also from the election day. I mean, look at this. This is daily candles from November 5th. I mean, it's already just had major upside here, right? Actually started the day before. Here's that breakout from prior resistance, and it's at 175% move. So how much more do you want? Well, I think everybody who's in Doge wants to see it go to all-time high territory and make new all-time highs. Certainly possible, and certainly with Elon's involvement, anything is possible. So I got a tiny bit just as a flyer, and I will probably not hold it very long. Just wait till I get to a nice profit target and sell that one. And if it breaks down from here, I'm out. Of course, my focus tends to be on Bitcoin, and I think that we are in a good spot in terms of the macro. The question is whether this micro trend, this short-term trend, can hold, and can BTC continue on this trajectory. Simple as that, right? Doesn't look so good on the daily, but it looks pretty good on the 4-hour. And if you're wondering, there's always speculation. Drawing lines on charts is a bit of an art form, bit of an art, bit of science. Let me tell you how I arrived at this trajectory right here. When in doubt, I like to go to line charts. You eliminate the wicks and you go with those touch points. And we started down here, touch here, and then this is just what happened. I drew this chart, by the way, yesterday, long before we ever came down and retested this. In fact, I think it was 9 or 10 hours before price came down. I posted something on X, and then last night I saw that we were actually coming into that region. So we're obviously looks like we're headed to retest that now. It could break down over the weekend, but if it holds, and if it holds through Wednesday, we're going to be looking at 100K Bitcoin. Simple as that. One last shot of the order book before we go. Alex, thanks again for joining me. I appreciate you, buddy. Hope you guys all have a fantastic weekend. Spend some time doing something you love with the people you love.